and listen to the talk attentively, we will turn off the function of the chat room. Thank you.
等果心法师回到座位上后，我们就会先行礼如仪，请大家稍后。好，法师回来了。好，我们先行礼如仪，大众。
Let's do the ethic. Please join palm. Bow to the Buddha. Bow to Master Shen Yan, the founder of DDM. Bow to our venerable Amituofo. 法师, venerable, and everybody, good evening. Thank you for joining us for the fourth Dharma talk by Venerable Guoxing on the Dharma drum lineage of Chinese Buddhism. In his last talk, Venerable Guoxing told us the content of Dharma drum lineage of Chinese Buddhism. It is not only about the Chan praxis, but it has much to do with Bodhi mind, aspiring to benefit all sentient beings. Therefore, we have to examine ourselves to see if our practice conforms to the core of Buddhism. Venerable also provided explanation and guidance for those of us who are interested in meditation by recommending the books on meditation from the complete collection of Dharma drum, so we can continue to practice using the books authored by Master Shen Yan. Venerable also elaborate on the importance of Bodhisattva Precept. Those who have precept to break are Bodhisattva. Those who have no precept to break are outer path follower. Furthermore, meditation is not only for enlightenment. What is more important is to initiate the Bodhi mind to benefit all sentient beings.
Hi, everybody. Omid Tofo. Thank you, the introduction by the host. And actually, last time, what I introduced to everybody is to present to you the content of the Dharma drum lineage from a practice point of view, and Buddha Dharma's function to help deliver the world. And because Master Sheng Yen said the Chan method is not just a method, nor is it just a school of thought, but it's a holistic view of Buddha Dharma. But from a historical perspective, the Buddhism, it changes throughout the time, and to adjust to the cultural context and create different historical culture. And Master Sheng Yen has said that Chinese Buddhism has a very special adaptation of the Buddha Dharma, and it has a characteristic of amalgamating and reorganizing the Buddha Dharma. And so Master Sheng Yen, using his own experience to share with us a more precise teaching that is useful for the modern day people, and therefore he created a sect, this new sect of the Dharma drum lineage. And when we often say that it's a school or sect, this is actually not that. It's more about this a journey of transformation. And when we say the lineage, we don't literally mean the lineage, because in the Lengqie Sutra says that the principle it means is the heart, and the transformation of the heart is the dissolving of the mind and the world. And so this is what our discussion today is how we can, go through this journey of transformation, inheriting the past and inspiring the future. So our content today will start from two books. The first one is the Dharma Drum Lineage of Chan Buddhism, Inheriting the Past and Inspiring the Future. This book, it was was put together into a book in the Dharma Drum collection in 2020. So and they have collected a lot of the Master Sheng Yen's talk that's regarding Dharma transmission and and also just generally the definition on the Dharma Drum lineage. So how do we spread and the Dharma and created a lot of guidelines for it. And so this is all collected in this first book. And so the other book is not really a book. It wasn't really a book. It would just be a collection of text, but it was a collection of the content between the conversation between Master Sheng Yen and Dalai Lama. And before their conversation, their Master Shifu had written by hand. He's written this chart of Chinese Buddhism lineage development system. So he wanted to use the opportunity of conversation with Dalai Lama to present his Dharma lineage and how the development of it and how it has come to become this Chinese Dharma Drum lineage during this conversation with Dalai Lama. So today we will be talking about these two books, using these two books as the main sources for the content of the lecture. And but later, also the first book uh, was also developed from the chart of the Chinese Buddhism lineage. Uh, so we'll see today. Well, why did he thought about this title, the inheriting the past and inspiring the future? And so the reason is because Master Sheng Yen, about when he was 70 years old, he was starting to get ill, and so at the time, Shifu knew that it was important to think about the 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 mission of for the lineage to continue. So at the time, on the one hand, Shifu uh, for example, when Shifu for his disciples who have their names starting with Guo, or for example, our venerable Changxing, where their names start with Chang, and so this is a kind of passing on the lineage and and so regarding this in the Dharma Drum lineage, so Master Sheng Yen, he has carries two traditions of Chinese Chan, the Cao Dong and the lineage, but he really wanted to see the rapid development of the Chinese Chan Buddhism. So if Shifu, if he could not see this realized in his later years, then he wished that you could pass on such lifelong mission and responsibility to the to monks and lay people that will come after him, and that definitely includes lay people, and to help promote and put this Dharma drum that was started out from Master Cheng Yen, and to help to benefit the society and the general public. And this such mission is ha, so Shifu he has it's become a monk for a second time, and when he was 32 years old. And he had worked when he was 70 years old, he had worked on it for 70 years old, and he really wanted to share this treasure with everybody. So how to spread such knowledge? It's not just talking about practice, and instead it's also contextualizing the different sects of Chinese and Indian Buddhism, and their benefits and and to make them comprehensible and applicable to people in the modern society. Because within Buddhism there are a lot of there are a lot of uh, core there are kind of a lot of different core values that are very very high and very high-minded and difficult, and it's not easily understood by a normal person. And 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 not to even and to even consider to even practice, that would be even harder, and to actually to meet the theory. So Master Sheng Yen saw that the the positive points, the advantage of the Chinese Chan Buddhism, and that is the amalgamating, or the collection, comprehension of all the different sects. And the Chinese Chan Buddhism can also be useful and adaptable to modern day people. And this is also very much core to the Chan method, because the Chan methods are very very simple, very in the very early Chan method, and then the Chan school might even consider even consider itself is 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 transmitted sort of outside the main lineage. And so it's been said that even if you do not know Buddha Dharma, or know much about Buddhism, you can still benefit from such kind of sudden awakening methods of the Chan Buddhism. And 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 so for modern people, how can we use this on a daily basis and practice that? And these methods are at the same time are not divorced and astray from the core teaching of Buddha Dharma. And so this is a very important life mission. And so Shifu want more people to help push the 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 the, the, the benefits of the Chinese Buddhism. And Master Sheng Yen So Master Sheng Yen, when he in 1998, when he was in during May, when he had the conversation between Chinese and Tibetan Buddhism, and on May 1st, so he had he had written this chart and a general content, or right, you see right here. So we'll talk about this a little bit later, but then the core points are here. um, the first is, the Chinese and Tibetan Buddhism have the same origin but are different branches. uh, and so when we say that the same origin, that's Indian Buddhism. And and the different branches are talking about when how Indian Buddhism first went to China, then later went to Tibet. And so these two branches have transformed has appropriately developed and transformed to accommodate the local cultures. And so in order to to have a conversation between Chinese and Tibetan Buddhism, we have to talk about the origins which they share. So therefore, the second point is the academic thoughts in the Indian Buddhism, and so because this is the shared origin. So then later, last is the mainstream teaching and the practice of Chinese Buddhism. So regarding the teaching and practice, the teachings and theory, so he pointed out that these teachings are suitable for the general Han Chinese, which is the Tiantai school method, and the other one is the Huayan school method. And these two schools are developed during the Sui and Tang dynasty, and because and so after in Tang dynasty, the sixth patriarch had a kind of had a an aggregation or collect and organize the these methods, and to transform these practices into very simple and everyday practices, but that while at the same time that can still connect to the principles and theories. And so how is that and why is that? Because the Chan method or itself is can be said that it's a method of a wisdom method. And so we say that when the sixth patriarch has an enlightened experience, and then they're from there developed about five different sects. So in the Chan school, there are five different sects lineage, and so even today they are still they're still running. The lineage still continues. Then that is Cao Dong and lineage and Linji, and these are passed on in Korea and Japan and Vietnam. And that is to say that the Chan school itself, even though it doesn't have its own consistent teaching and theory, but its spirit, because it has captured the core of Buddha Dharma. Therefore, it can use Tian Tai and Huayan's methods and the theory to help to us to transmit its practice.
Therefore, 师父 want to bring the modern chant methods to the people. He probably spent about 50 years, since he was ordained when he was 30 till the time he passed. It's about 50 years that Shifu has been teaching, experience himself, as well as learn in depth from others, as well as study the literature, got a degree in Buddhism. So other people will say, well, if you learn to chant, to do chant, you don't have to learn the Buddha Dharma, you just practice. And this is the fallacies that was believed by a lot of Westerners. Chinese is hard to read, particularly it's classical Chinese. And then we're talking about the teaching of Tiantai and Huayin that is so hard to understand. So how do we bring this excellent chord of Buddha Dharma, and how do we bring this and help other people to learn this? This is hard, but Sifu has been thinking about how to pass this down, how to passing this lineage to ordinary people in modern world. So this is the mission of Shifu. Therefore, Shifu decided to name his mission and responsibility a Dharma drum lineage, using the Buddha heart as the core of our lineage. This particular words, the lineage, it's not a school of thoughts. It really refers to the Buddha mind. As says in the platform scripture and Yu Qie scripture, all the teachings said by the Buddha, it is based upon the Buddha mind as the core principle. So emptiness or self nature, it is the core of Zhong, which means principle. So we usually will say Dharma drum as this building, as this mountain that you can see in the picture. So this picture was taken previously, and as you can see, this is located in Golden Mountain. It's surrounded by clouds. It feels like the entire monastery is located in the oceans of clouds. I was wondering if you can see this in Golden Gate, San Francisco. I was wondering if you can see what beneath the cloud. See, we are on top of the oceans of cloud because we use cloud as a symbol of our vexation. So when our mind is clouded, we cannot see the truth. In the Mind Sutra, the Heart Sutra, it says that, so if we understand the cause and condition, we will be able to return to our true nature, the true understanding of self. So as you can see, our hall in the Dharma Mountain building, there is a sign. It says our original face on the sign. If you get a chance to visit Dharma Drum, and the sign that hang in our hall is called 本来面目, the original face. Shifu felt that he hoped that when people come to visit DDM at our Great Hall, hopefully we'll not only see the building, we should be able to see what's inside us, our own nature. So when you visit DDM, you are able to see your original nature, your original face, yourself. And this is the core belief of Shifu. But the Buddha Dharma has been existed for ages. So how do we transform the very ancient principle of Buddha Dharma into something that people in the modern society can learn? So the way that Shifu suggested is that we have to go back and examine the benefits as well as the weakness of Chinese Buddhism. So according to Shifu, it seems that the Buddhism has a glorious past. Particularly, it became very prominent during Sui and Tang dynasty. So Chinese Buddhism during that time expanding and push forward the entire cultural system during that time. So if you go to Japan and you can see a lot of construction, old construction, or Buddhist construction, those was influenced by Tang dynasty style. So Buddhism has a great influences on different cultures, even among close to Chinese, close to China. Because why can Chinese Buddhism become so important and influential? Because at that time, people can transform Indian Buddhism into Chinese Buddhism. So it's kind of localized or make it more Chinese. So when we say localized or Chinese Buddhism, um, so it has been, another 1500 years since Tang Dynasty. So unfortunately, um, it was criticized by the contemporary intellectual because the Chinese Buddhism, on one hand, in our modern history, a Chinese modern history, uh, in the Qing dynasty, it was invaded by different countries. And up to now, it become People's Republic of China. And of course, in Taiwan, we still have the Chinese culture, and we still retain the term of uh, Republic of China. So the intellectual of the past 50 years are in Taiwan, and these are the same group of people bring in Chinese Buddhism to Taiwan. So when we experience the modern system of academic thoughts, it seems that we have lost faith in Chinese Buddhism. We have lost faith in, we have lose our faith in teaching and practice. We don't have lineage. It seems that we are on the weaker side of culture as we have been invaded and attacked by different Western countries. So they are on the stronger side, the Western country, but it seems that we have fall to the rock bottom, and then our culture system has been weakened since then. So we have kind of give up our classical Chinese. So we try to learn the scientific methods. So the entire culture, or culturally speaking, we have lost confidence in our own culture, as well as we also lost our faith and confidence in Buddhism. At the same time, uh, very few elites would like to be ordained, and they also lose their confidence in Chinese Buddhism. And they felt that Tibetan Buddhism or Theravada Buddhism has more structure and sequences. And why don't we have that? So in the beginning, in the Western world, when they begin to study Buddhism, they begin with Theravada, they begin with Agama Sutra, particularly in England, when they govern Sri Lanka, colonized Sri Lanka, they felt that Theravada is great because their teaching, their meaning, there is not a lot of religious, um, there's another religious or belief in gods. So it's more like, it's very logical, it's reasonable. But when it comes to the Chinese Buddhism, when it comes to um, so it seems that when it comes to Chinese Buddhism, they did not talk a lot about Madhyamaka. They did not talking about empty nature. it seems that Chinese Buddhism, so so the in other words, in the Western culture, they discover the benefit of Theravada Buddhism, and then and for them to understand Chinese Buddhism, it's even harder because of language barriers. So because the language is hard to understand, so they decided to learn the Theravada Buddhism and try to see Chinese Buddhism through the perspective of Theravada Buddhism. And of course, they also exposed to Tibetan Buddhism, and they try to understand Chinese Buddhism from the perspective from Tibetan Buddhism. So how do we address that? How do we address the dilemma? So Sifu tried to really understand Chinese Buddhism. He believed that our Chinese Buddhism really inherit the essences of Indian Buddhism. Why do we are open-minded and inclusive as a Chinese Buddhist? It has a lot to do with Sifu's learning experience. When Sifu was in secluded retreat, he has learned a lot of Agama Sutra and Vinaya. So he has an in-depth understanding of uh, the core of Buddhism. So which is so after he was in solitary retreat for 6 years, the core of the Buddhism is become very clear to him, and he felt that it is the teaching of Bodhidharma is directly related to practice. So it's there's no gap between the teaching and practice. So according to the Gama Sutra, um, he felt that the those the teaching translated to China, for example, like Gama Sutra, they are from they are from Hinayana, so it's not just that. So Shifu decided to directly inherit the essences of India Buddhism. So when Buddha was still alive, the core of Buddhism is Agama Sutra and Precept. After after Buddha died, different sect of Buddhism began to develop. For example, different segment of Hinayana, uh, but the core of Buddhism should be Agama Sutra and Precept. So it doesn't matter is it Mahayana or Hinayana or even Tibetan Buddhism. Everything should go back to the foundation of Indian Buddhism, which is Agama Sutra and Precept. And for Chinese Buddhism, there's a lot of voices criticize Tibetan Buddhism, and we have been criticized Tibetan Buddhism frequently because we felt that the Tibetan culture, we felt that it was mystified. The Tibetan culture was mystified, and we felt that there's a different exotic way of practice Buddhism. There are different parts of the practice that does not conform to Chinese culture. So when Shifu goes to Japan and he began to, so
Tibetan Buddhism has this theory, but what we often see on the surface is just on the surface. And so, of course, I'm not trying to say that all Tibetan Buddhism is good, because there's still a lot of imposters of and not legitimate uh, monks that are they're just there to make money. So often talk about supernatural powers, and all these things to attract a believer. But I mean, you can say that this is a kind of characteristics of the culture, but from a lot of the Chinese Buddhist perspective, that's not that's very superficial. So Shifu is, when they're looking at the Theravada Buddhism, or he's looking at the essence of Indian Buddhism, as well as looking at the positive aspects of Tibetan Buddhism, while grounding in the Chinese Buddhism. And so, what does that mean? Because Sheng Yan Shifu, when he for his path of becoming a monk, and his methods and teachings are all core based in the Chinese Buddhism. So how can you transform this into a method that's easily accepted by the modern people? So then you have to you have to uh, to highlight the pros and the advantages of the Chinese Buddhism. So the so a lot of the core of the Chan and Chinese Buddhist, the core. And so to, the Chinese Buddhism has an inclusive quality and a summarizing quality, ability, or amalgamating. So he so Shifu, he's trying to, in the past, the Mahayana and Hinayana are both in conflict, and then also the Tibetan Buddhism are in conflict with the Chinese Buddhists. But then through today's in-depth study, we see that they all have their own positive advantages. So we see both of them as a source of water, source water. And so we use this source water to nourish and carry forward the Chinese Buddhism. And because Chinese Buddhism also has both has learned a lot of the advantages in the Indian and the Tibetan Buddhism, and try to develop that. And this is not easy. It's not an easy thing to do, because normally people uh, are much more about sticking to their school or sector, and going deep with one method, and think that their method and their way is the best, and everything else is secondary and less good. So from a personal point of view, it is true that we do need to go in depth in any method that we choose to go. That is important and imperative. But once you go in depth in one method, in one way, but after you have mastered that, then you have to open that up and develop ways to help others. And so that's what we call is, if you've gone deep in one gate, then you can open all gates. So then in the late Ming Dynasty, or in Qing Dynasty, or later Republic era, the Chinese Mahayana Buddhism, or in some ways, how has Chinese Mahayana Buddhism has amalgamated, or summarized it in it is that's it's become not just one method, or many method. It's kind of a accumulating, amalgamating um, a school. And so this is what we have now today as the Dharma drum lineage. So this picture is Master Sheng Yan in the United Nations, when he was talking the Chinese Buddhist benefit to the world, what it can offer to the world, or what kind of life wisdom that it can offer to the world. And so Master Sheng Yan had picked out this important point, that all religion needs to mutually respect each other. And for example, Master Shifu said, the Mahayana the faith theory, and so that says uh, the when if the mind arises, all phenomenon arises. If the mind ceases, then all phenomena ceases. So then from there he developed theory that says the environmentalism of the spiritual the spirit, and so the conflict between the religions are it comes from people criticizing each other's good and bad, and so all this comes from the divisive mind of people. And so from a wisdom perspective, we want to get rid of these greed, hatred, and delusion, and learn from all different religions advantages and learn from each other, and and regarding the advantages of Buddhism, we should have a confidence and faith in it, but we should not um, expect and I want everybody to become Buddhism, because that's not impossible. Everybody has their own karmic roots, and they have their own propensity. So that's that. So we need to respect everyone's choice in religion. So how can we provide this such new path for modern day people? So then Master Sheng Yen needs to develop. So the Buddhism has to come back to the modern day scholarly research, and Master Sheng Yen said that, from the historical perspective, Buddhism has has early Buddhism, or the original Buddhism during when the Shakyamuni Buddha was alive, and then so after Buddha went into paranirvana, then there's different schools that emerge in India, and and so these different sectors, they 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 created created the Abhidharma, and then after that there was from the Abhidharma that there it developed the Madhyamanaka, and the consciousness only, and also the Tathagata Garbha school, the school of thought. So and so when the Buddhism has come to China, then that's what we call it, the Chinese Buddhism. And in other words, we Chinese, we say this is Chinese Buddhism because it's the we because or more specifically in Chinese Han Buddhism, it's because at the time where it went to China, it was during the Han Dynasty, and so this is about during the first century before the Common Era is when Buddhism came to China. So when after it's come to China, they slowly developed, and 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 the Han Chinese Buddhism slowly developed its own school as well. So actually, in China, there's not originally the different schools were not that clear. We're not that clear. It's not that people identify themselves as different schools. It's actually more about the modern scholars' way to classify the different path and lineages and paths. So they learn from each other. So one of them is the Chan Buddhism, and so the Chan Buddhism is not core based in sutras. Rather instead, it's a core based in the Buddha's wisdom, and so then that became what we call Chan school, and from that they learn from all the different schools of doctrines, and then that became the kind of dominant form, and then also now became the what we consider Chinese Buddhism. And today, Master Sheng Yen realized that today's today's scholarly methods and today's modern practice method have both have their advantages. and because the 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 kind of the organization of the doctrines and teaching was not well organized for Chinese Buddhism. So therefore, he thought that he had to organize it, and so that there's a clear method and sequence. And so to if we only learn from other people's advantages, then it will be really difficult for us to become the mainstream. So what we need to do is if we if we base our principle on the mind, so then actually the meaning of the what we say zong or principle, that means we want to base our principle in the Buddha mind. And so if we can do that, then our practice will naturally be able to learn all other methods from other schools, and then can incorporate it into our own practice. Then therefore become become a mainstream in the future. But the other thing is the the Theravada teachings, and that's, or we say that's the original teaching. It doesn't have, there are not a lot of changes. It doesn't change very much. It's not a lot of variety. So the Theravadan countries, they have a lot of, they're very good, they're very good memory. They have very good memory. So we always say that they have the three Tripitaka teacher, and that means that they are able to memorize the the Tripitaka, and their lineage was able to pass on because all the past masters were able to memorize the whole Tripitaka. And so the changes that in the throughout this time from the past didn't change very much. And so now we realize that the teaching are very pure and very simple. And so on the other hand, Tibetan Buddhism is very much more complex and complicated, and that's the characteristic, that's a special characteristic of Tibetan Buddhism. So how did Master Sheng Yen organize these things? So we'll look at, so the so in order to 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 see Buddhism from its origin, how it's developed, then we have to, this is actually history, right? And so this is yeah, this is so if you have interest, you can look at the difference between the Theravada Chinese and Tibetan Buddhism. So Master Sheng Yen, when he went to Japan in the beginning, the first book that he wrote is World Religion History, Volume 1. So in other words, it's talking about the Indian Buddhism, and also the Chinese Buddhist, history of Chinese Buddhism, and the history of Tibetan Buddhism. And regarding Theravada Buddhism, he didn't talk about it as much. Uh, and so it was only later when he went to Japan that he studied Theravada Buddhism's history more, and regardless if it's a translation or his own book, he used Indian Buddhism to represent Theravada Buddhism, but actually the Theravada Buddhism is still different than the original Indian Buddhism. And so here we see that Shakyamuni Buddha, what is the origin? That is the Agama Sutra, and the other one is Vinaya.
So the precept is a way to regulate people's behavior. So when Sifu is in retreat, he study precept, and learns that the the Chen Buddhism or the Chen practice, or if we see things from the perspective Chen, Shikamamuni's original sutra and his ways of practice, Sifu felt that there's a very good reference point by looking at precept, and we should learn a lot from the precept. So if you have if you get a chance, you should study those books Sifu read when he was in solitary retreat. So it's about books related to precept. And how is that related to our peoples in modern society? Of course, when Shifu was in the solitary retreat, he studied the precept for monastics. So in addition to the 5 precept and 10 virtues, the modern people really need Bodhisattva precept. But the materials that Sifu has access to when he was in solitary retreat is limited. But Sifu also thinking about, okay, Bodhisattva precept is important to modern life, but it's hard for the modern people to follow that. So Sifu tried to modernize the Bodhisattva precept. So 20 years later, Sifu says that Sifu proposed his viewpoint of Bodhisattva precept. So to have Bodhi heart, Bodhi mind, to accept Bodhisattva precept are important lessons that we should have. According to Sifu, after you are enlightened, how do we deliver others? How do we benefit others? Sifu says that because the central being has deluded mind, so they have deluded thoughts. So how do we help people to be enlightened? Based upon the Theravada Buddhism, including Tiantai and Huayan Sutra, it says that the moment of thoughts, the moment of idea could be transformed. So it doesn't have to go through a process. It's not. It has nothing to do with time. It's your heart at that moment. How do you transform that? So Shifu understand those examples proposed by Agama Sutras, for example, Abhidhamma and conscious only Tasagat Garba, as well as Madhihayama. So he understand and try to study all that. And then how Indian Buddhism has been spread to the southern part of Asia, China, as well as Tibet. So within the Chinese Buddhism, there are 8 major schools, which also include Chen school. And then Shifu felt that Chen is the one that can transforms and integrated all different school of thoughts in Chinese Buddhism. So, I just give you a quick overview of the Buddhism development. Buddhism spread from Ganges rivers toward Southeastern Asia, Northern Asia, and China and Tibet. And the important thing is that it is localized because it's interact with local culture. So when we're talking about Hinayana Buddhism, there shouldn't be a differences between Hinayana or Hinayana because it developed the differences because of its interaction with culture. So when we see how Indian people deal with COVID-19, as we can see, they are very good at using their own religion. So they find out the cow manure could cure COVID-19 symptom, cow manure. So although the local facilities or medical equipment is not well, but according to some of the information we got, the COVID-19, the pandemic. So there are 300,000 people has confirmed cases, and there are only 3,000 people die. So the statistic is quite positive. Only 1% people died. This is no. This is quite positive compared to the world statistics. So the percentage is quite low. Other people's fatal rate in different part is about 3%, but the death rates in India is about only 1%. So based upon the calculation of the death rate, giving the very poor medical equipment facilities, but their death rate is not particularly worse than other parts of country. I believe it has something to do with their faith. So compared with Chinese culture, so in mainland China, when they encounter the surge of COVID-19, it seems that people are kind of try to push the problem away. Is it useful? I think it probably helpful mentally. So Mahayana and Hinayana is manifested based upon people's mind. So Dharma itself has no distinction, but because of different people, we develop different lineage. So the core of Chen Buddhism is the dependent origins and also the wisdoms. So when Shikamoni talk about Buddha Dharma, he talking about four sufferings and approach to address those sufferings. Eight, he talking about cause and effect, and all the phenomena in the human world is really about cause and effect. But the roots of the cause and effect. So what's the nature of that? It's dependence or origins. So dependent origin, looking at different variable and factors, and cause effect has a time effect included. So the core of dependent origins. So Buddha says, if you see the dependent origins, you see the Dharma, and if you see the Buddha Dharma, you see the Buddha. So the core of the Buddha Dharma is dependent origins. So Buddha has no self. Buddha is selfless. Buddha only see how different phenomena manifest itself. He did not see the distinction, and he can also experiences the mind of sensual beings, and he know that when sensual being it has the deluded mind and was deluded by the manifestation of different phenomena. So they say that if you see the Buddha Dharma, you see different variables or dependent variables. You can see the Buddha Dharma and you can see the Buddha. So a quick overview. We were talking about The histories of Buddhism, of course, it has different lineage, and the commonality or the common core is cause and condition. The dependent origins and the cause and effects are the core. So based upon that, let's look at Chinese Buddhism. The core of Chinese Buddhism is a precept, a meditation, concentration, and wisdom. And if we're looking at, we can also look at that through Bodhi mind. And if we work on those, we can become Buddha ourselves, and we can benefit and deliver all sentient beings. So the anchor of practice is precept, um, concentration, and wisdom. That's the core of Chinese Buddhism. So when we accept the Buddhism from India, there are two key aspects, which is to translation of the sutras and literature. So when we have enough of translated literature and sutras, people begin to interpret those Chinese sutra and literature differently. And different scholars and different scholars intellect begin to stiffen aspect of wisdom and transform that to practice, so that then they develop different school of thoughts. And then each of the school of thoughts develop their own literature as well as practice, methods of practice. But it's important to say that when they try to develop, when Chinese Buddhism in the process of developing, it's not only based upon the Indian culture, it is also interact with the Chinese culture, and we already have very local culture, including both two major culture, Taoism and Confucianism. So more kind of a elitist way is more like Confucianism and Taoism, but we also have like folk religion. So how does Buddhism interact with our local cultures in China? What kind of interaction does that has? In the beginning, actually, they are in conflicting with each other. The Buddhism, after after it spread to China, it has in conflict with Taoism and Confucianism. But later on, it's developed ways to integrate the local culture. So the Chinese culture has to coexist with Taoism and Confucianism. So it has to survive in the cultural context of the local culture. For example, Confucianism, talking about the mission of the heaven. It's talked by the scholar in Sun Ming Dynasty. They're talking about everybody has a kind mind, and this is directly resonate to the Buddha nature. So Buddhism says all sentient being has the Buddha nature. It's just that we have a deluded mind. Um, so in Chinese Buddhism, that we were emphasizing the Tathagata Garba, because it's emphasizing the Buddha nature, the Buddha mind. Shigamoni Buddha did not say that we have a kind nature, or if we have a unkind nature. He just said that the life is suffering. This is the reality of life. Later on, in in the Mahayana Buddhism, they said that human mind is nice, is kind. They say that but the human mind could also be deluded, because the delusion, these, so it is also develop the conscious only school of thoughts. They're talking about consciousness is faulty, is not real. How do we transform the faulty consciousness into real? This is something that we should work on. So this is the school of thoughts of uh, so the conscious only school of thoughts talking about that we have true nature and we also have deluded mind. And then so after it's spread to China, Tathagata Garba kind of include all different school of thoughts. It is talking about mind of essential being. It's also talking about Buddha mind. Um, so it's talking about mind of essential being, mind of Buddha. So the Tathagata Garba could become the mainstream for the future Buddhism, but it has to be more inclusive and it has to be transformed. So let's continue. So Chinese Buddhism, during its process, so I have to give you a very quick overview. So during the Sui and Tang Dynasty, it reaches golden age. Um, so during the Tang Dynasty, Huineng, the sixth patriarch, um, become enlightened. He is illiterate, but he become enlightened and understand the wisdom, the Buddha wisdom. So he kind of localized the Chen Buddhism and develop 5 sects of Chen Buddhism in China. So one Chen Buddhism into 5 different sects. So when it comes to the 19th centuries in China, it is quite different from when Sixth Patriarch Huineng's time, because when Huineng practiced or when he after he's enlightened, the way that he teaching his disciples is really focused on human world. Um, but in the 19th centuries, um, the Chen Buddhism or monastic um, was kind of driven away into the deep, remote mountainside because the monastic, it has a lot to do with the historical context when the economy. So during that times, the people felt that the monks are not productive. They are not contribute to the society. They felt that, well, you better survive on your own. Therefore, a lot of people was driven to the remote mountain areas to live. In the ancient times, the Chen Buddhism and the monks during that time did not make a lot of contribution to the society. But the core of Chinese Buddhism, is it left? Is it passing down? Yes, it did. So because of that, we have to talk about Shifu, and then we have to talk about turning point of Shifu's life. So we have to talk about the passage of Chen Buddhism.
In this picture, it's in 1958 when he was still in the army, and 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 he met Master Ling Yuan, and for the first time has an enlightened experience. But after 20 years, when he visited Ling Yuan, Venerable Ling Yuan again, he received his Dharma transmission from him, and this Dharma transmission, I'm gonna talk about that briefly. So, and in addition to his Chan lineage transmission, his all learning experience, there are 6 main points. So I'll talk about it briefly. So let's look at this quickly. I'm gonna go take a quick break. So and this is yeah. So please look at this slide for a second. I'm gonna go for a really quick break. So if everybody would like to use this opportunity to take a quick break, and please do so swiftly. Can you hear me?
谢法师。
Yes. So to introduce Master Sheng Yan's lineage, we have to talk about the traditional Chinese Buddhism that he learned, and also from his initial becoming a monk, and then also to the second time becoming a monk, up to his experience in Japan, and as well as what he learned from Venerable Dongchu and Venerable Lingyuan. What are the contents? So, Shifu's childhood, he became a monk in the Wolf Mountain. So what did he learn there? He often said that his beginning mind, or his initial vow, he discovered that the Buddha Dharma is so great, but so much misunderstanding surrounding it, and that's that simple. And so this is Shifu's childhood. He saw that the Buddhism, his Buddha Dharma is so good, and but so much misunderstanding. So, but at the time he was still very young, and 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 at the time that, you know, when he from when he just became a monk, he didn't know very much, and so that temple that he was in is called Fa Ju. At the time, and the previous time I had said that when he became a monk, and when he was supposed to take his precept, his master wasn't actually there. So the master who was supposed to give him tonsure wasn't there, and so the one that actually gave him tonsure was just someone else. So, but when he after his prostrating to the Kuan Yin, then he and then after a while he went to Shanghai, and he was very disliked the culture at the time in Shanghai, Buddhist culture in Shanghai, and so all they did is to do ceremony for the dead, and also all these kind of ceremonies that they performed was just to survive, and he felt that, like, why is this the way Buddhism is? This is not Buddha's original vow and intention, and so and because and during the change in politics, then he took that opportunity to flee to Taiwan. And so then in 30, when he was 30, he had an opportunity to become a monk for the second time. So at this time, when Shifu was under Venerable Dongchu mainly. And so Venerable Dongchu, he himself is from the Lingji sect, because Venerable Dongchu, his first, when he became a monk, he became a monk in Guan Yin An, and his the master is Jing Chan, and inheriting the Lingji stack. And so when he gave Shifu a name, it was also a Lingji's Dharma name. It's called Hui Kong Sheng Yan. And so when Shifu went to receive the full precept, he met Venerable Dao Yuan, and Dao Yuan, he is actually is the grand Dharma heir of Venerable Xu in Taiwan, and he's in Taiwan. and Venerable Xu Yun, he has the Dharma transmission from Venerable Xu Yun. And so at the time, Venerable Xu Yun transmitted a lineage called Dong Yun sect, and it's actually it's the same as Cao Dong school, Cao Dong sect, and so because they changed the name, it's just it's actually just on the Dharma of precepts, the trans lineage of that. So then on number four, then the Bantetsugu master is when he went to Japan. This is a master he met in Japan, and Bantetsugu, he himself his master is Angu Baiyun, and it's in his master was also from Yuan Tian Zi Yun, and so in originally in Japan there's a very modern school. It's called Longzi sect. It's actually a combination of Cao Dong and Linji sect, and and the in the contemporary spreading of Dharma Buddha Dharma, it's actually very active, and the main Dharma area is Angu Baiyun. And so when Shifu went to the United States, he actually met other masters also from the same lineage in Japan. And so we see that Chan Master Bantetsugu confirmed the enlightened status of Shifu. So before he went to the United States, and but in fact, Master Bantetsugu wanted to give Shifu Dharma transmission, and Shifu was thought that he did not. He was like, oh, how could I take on the Japanese lineage? There's a lot of tension between China and Japan at the time. So Venerable Dongchu actually was under the lineage of Linji school, and so after he took on the position in a temple in China, he took on that sect. And so the other master is the Venerable Zhiguang, and who later fled to Taiwan as well. And when he was about to go to Japan, he got a lot of support from Venerable Zhiguang. And so Zhiguang and Venerable Dongchu has the lineage has a transmission from Cao Dong, and and uh, and from Master Ling Yuan, that is he received the Linji sect. So in terms of lineage transmission, there's a tonsor type, and also and the transmission type, and so when Master Sheng Yan talked to Venerable Dongchu, he asked if he could he could transmit his Dharma transition from when Venerable Dongchu was in China on Jiaoshan Mountain, and so he can only transmit his position as the president of the Cultural Institute to you. That's all I can do. And so in the end, that's what he did. And so Shifu's these two transmission lineage was this original Dharma transmission is from Dongzhu and Lingyuan. And so about so here in the first we talk about the transmission from a humanly perspective, where and so here then we are look at the inheriting from a teaching and theory perspective. So the three is here sees the precepts, meditation or concentration, and wisdom. So just previously it said when Shifu was in solitary retreats and he was his study his he's study in the precepts in Vinaya, he received the lineage of the inherited lineage of precepts. So and he was looking at studying the individual liberation precepts of the Stravakas. So normally most people do not have the opportunity to take on the monk precepts. So how can we use these kind of precepts into our normal daily lives? Then that is the cumulative precepts of the Bodhisattva, and it's it's a little bit different than the different than the Shravaka precepts. The Bodhisattva precept is the main objective is to deliver all sentient beings, and if so it normally through the six patriarchs' wisdom is because the platform sutra by the sixth patriarch says that as long as in our mind that we don't have right, wrong, good and bad, or greed, hatred, and delusion, then your mind will be in resonance with the Buddha's mind, and so that's to 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 change from for a practice that would otherwise take a really long time to become a Buddha. You can go from approach of a wisdom to 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 reach enlightenment in the immediately. And so this is and so how do we see the Shravakas
Talking about individual liberations, and there are different precepts. What do we do with that? For example, Baizhang Venerable talking about the farming and chain of culture. So based upon Indian Buddhism's and monk cannot farm, but Baizhang Venerable started this farming community, and then he says that he has 100 rules for people, for the monks to follow, and he kind of make those Indian precepts Chinese. He localized those precepts. So we have regulations in our monks community. So it's not based upon the precept. It's really based upon people's consensus to regulate our life together as a community. So if we live in a community, we have those regulations, right? We'll take a break, I guess. Okay. Okay. So those are precepts. So let's talk about the three precepts of Bodhisattva, and this is also based upon the sixth patriarch Huineng. This is based really work on your mind. Sifu also talking about meditation. Sifu's enlightened experiences is not through meditation, but when he was in secluded retreat, his method is like silent illumination. It's similar to silent meditation. But Sifu is really going like sudden awakening. So Sifu has to learn different approach because he has his own sudden enlightenment moment, but he doesn't have approach, so he has to search and practice. He has read a lot of history done by patriarch of Chen Buddhism. So he tried to find an anchor for practice. So this will be easier for ordinary people who are interested in meditation, as long as you have an anchor, right? But if you don't have anchor, if it's just sudden enlightenment, it will be harder to use a methods. So if you can find the sequential methods, which is also resonate to the sudden enlightenment. So he find anchor through the sixth patriarch Hui Neng's disciple. The disciple started with Tiantai school. And so he entered Chen through Tiantai. And so you can use connect and integrate Tiantai and sequential Chen together. But those sequential methods is Tiantai's sequential methods. But if you cannot enter Chen through Tiantai, there's other sequential method, which is counting your breath, which is also work. So in our Chen practice, so there are like earlier, medium, and advanced status of, so the most elementary will be counting your breath. The middle will be 中观. There are three ways of observation. You have to, this is based upon Tiantai's methods. So 中观 means you come back to the sources of your wisdom. That is the middle way. The middle way by Tiantai is different from the Tiantai talked about by Indian Buddhism. So Sifu go back to the sources of academia, talking about the Zhongguan talk about by Indian Buddhism. So this is also different from Tiantai's Zhongguan. So this different approach, this different methods have is a systematic, it's sequential, and they also talking about how you should regulate your mind and body, how you should follow the precept. And the purpose is to accomplish and obtain wisdom. And there's different ways to obtain wisdom through hearing, reflecting, and practicing. So these are three approaches or three different channels to obtain wisdom. So the first patriarch used Leng Jie Jing, and they talk about 5 categories and 3 natures. And they're also talking about 8 consciousness and 2 kinds of selflessness. So this is similar to Yu Qie Sutra. And this is also similar to Tathagata Garba. So Yagakara is really similar to Tathagata in the sense that they use the mind as the essence of Buddha's words. So the second patriarch also talking about no mind to pacify. So you can look at some of the Gong'an by second patriarch. And of course, the sixth patriarchs, Diamond Sutra, talk about mind arising, no abide. And it is the phrase, allow the sixth patriarch to become enlightened. So this process, so Chen methods has its own process of development. And in its development, to explore its core of the chain. The, the core of Buddhism is cause and effect and cause and condition. And when we're talking about cause and condition, basically we're talking about if you do you have abstracted mind? Your mind fix on something. So the core of Buddhism is that if your mind is not abstracted, you have wisdom. If you cannot do that, if your mind is abstracted, if your mind is deluded, you cannot resonate with the Buddha, and then you are a sensual being, you are ordinary people. If you every moment, if you can see the mind of Buddha, if you can resonate with Buddha, you are Buddha. And so precept, the core of precept is to benefit others. It probably will take a long time for you to become a Buddha. But from the point of view of practice, from your early mind to have Buddha mind, it's the most important process. But the mind, Buddha, and sensual beings are equal. There's no distinction. So this is the Chen practice by Shifu. This is what Shifu has learned in the process. If we follow his teaching, we'll say, oh, this is so difficult, so challenging. So what can we do? So Shifu will use Chen methods to make it more simplified. When Shifu studied in Japan, he has encountered the modern literatures and you know, when he came to United States, America, a lot of Americans are simple-minded. If they believe in you, they will follow your practice and they will practice. But the civil basis says that there are 4 stages in the process of meditation. So they're talking about scattered mind, concentrated mind, unified mind, and no mind. So ordinary people, how do we change from scattered mind to a mind that is coming for himself? We can use Buddha Dharma to help us. So we have to work on our concentrated mind. So if Buddha Dharma can work on us, we should use that to help us to develop our concentrated mind. Based upon the traditional literatures and practice, how do we work? How do we develop no mind from our scattered mind status? How do we do that? But in the Chen methods, they also says that every single moment, if your mind is not deluded, you can develop no mind. So Sifu also think, how do we use Chen Buddhism to develop the process of unified mind? How do we do that? We have to follow, we have to explore its core meaning, its core principle, in order to learn and learn the principle that is resonate to Chinese Chen Buddhism. How do we do that? So, okay, so this is another. So Chen Buddhism can help you with that. Chen Buddhism is a great amalgamator of Chen Buddhism. This is based, you know, when Shifu has a conversation with Dalai Lama, he emphasized that Chen Buddhism amalgamate Tiantai and Huayan and its core of both Tiantai and Huayan. And when Shifu say Tiantai, he felt the core of Tiantai is it's integrated India Buddhism. So it's not abiding to the scripture, but it's not turn away from the scripture either. So it developed
经典没有这么直接讲啊，就是他发展出的，就是不是
it's
信一样，而是从他的修正
so it's after it integrated the India Buddhism.
止观双运。
Um,
止观双运如果能够
Indian Buddhism talking about practice
对应
both
到他
coming
所说
and
的
contemplation.
止观，好，
If we can
哎，止观有次第的止观，
follow the
次第的
perfect
止观，
re-
好，天台中就发展出
realization,
这个
so
原
Tiantai developed
那
perfect
道
realization.
理也有观法，
It's emphasizing teaching and practice.
他强调的
So it says
虽
that
然是虚妄心，
the, the human has deluded
里
mind.
面你只要跟你的
But as long as
相应，
every thought is resonate
具备
with
你
Bodhi
的
heart,
心，
that means you have the potential to have the
具备
Buddha
你
mind.
现在还没有
So
成
it
就，
means that you
可是
has
你
yet
具
to
备
accomplish the Buddha mind, but you have
能力，
potential to obtain the Buddha
这
mind.
是天台中
This is what Tianta says. And then in the Huayan sect,
妄心来
is talking about the deluded mind of all essential beings,
的角度来看，
and talking about the Dharma realm from the
具备了他
perspective
具
of
备的
Buddha.
十种法界，
They're talking about the Buddha realm has 10 different Buddha world.
诶，
You know, uh,
这个三界里面就是有什么？三界有六道，
so they're talking about there are 6
六种法界，
uh,
声闻、缘觉、菩萨道，那是四种的这个
6 realms.
法界，
There are 4 different kinds of
佛的角度来看，
realms for practitioners.
这个四事无碍法界哈。从佛的角度来看的话，一切
So
都
he's
是
talking about Dharma realms, a mutual, unabstracted phenomenon. All phenomena comes from the Dharma realms, and then every phenomenon is all of
的
Dharma
和谐
realms.
之力，
So you probably can learn that as well.
包含了凡夫的这个怎么讲？这个六道
The 10 realms includes
种法界嘛。
the 6 reincarnation realm. And so in Huayan, it says that
什么意思呢？
that every phenomena is all Dharma realm.
具备
So what does this mean?
法界啊，
Is that mean, so is it that our mind
没有
is included in all Dharma
前
realm?
面
So that's
讲
not a problem. So
前面
in
妄
front,
你就
before we talked about a deluded mind originate from Buddha
但
mind,
是呢，
but you have not become a Buddha yet. But from a Huayan's point of view, when it talks about that the all where all Dharma realm is within every phenomenon, it's complete in every phenomenon. This is something that our ordinary mind cannot
他没有，他是聚焦，
cannot focus on.
有那个角度
So because we focus on our own perspective, but as long as as long as we in one thought, one moment that we can let that go, then you can be complete and be full, see the full Dharma.
的角度是
And but it's so our we are already have Buddha mind from within, but it's simply that we haven't uncovered it. But if we
我们
only
这
see
一点一点的一念
see
他没有办法
these all these deluded mind of our everyday life,
妄心，
then all we know is our deluded mind.
但是
But in Huayan's school, they don't have a very specific focus. It's trying to see things from a big picture, to see all Dharma realm. And so this is just from a perspective of theory,
修行法门，
and to develop a resulting in the Cao Dong and Linji sect. So from the Chan method is Chan method talks about something even simpler, from sudden awakening to perfect realization.
中里面
On one hand, for Chan practitioners, they don't expect everybody to go deeply into the sutras. But in ancient time in China, most people are farmers. So and actually because a lot of the Chan masters are in the mountains farming. So it, so and so when masters are talking about Huayan, people just close their eyes and nod their head like okay, okay, okay. And in other words, teaching in the Chan school is doesn't expect you to go deep, but from a practice perspective, it demands that your mind is pure, and your body, speech, and action are pure, and also that your environment is pure, and that it is a pure land. So this is Chan schools, what they promote. So in other words, then what Shifu has concluded or synthesized here, this is his conclusion.
怎么呢？
So his conclusion is that to retain the advantages of Chinese Buddhism and integrates the practical Chan methods from various countries, thus enable the Chinese Buddhism to flourish. So before we were talking about the advantages of Chinese Buddhism. So, but then the later part is when Shifu went to United States or Europe, what he learned in other places, what he learned from Theravada Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism, he learned from them, learn their systematic path methods and sequential organization. So then that's what has become the Dharma Drum lineage. So that's what's enabled the Dharma Drum lineage to inherit the past and also inspire the future. And so our Chinese Buddhism's wisdom to share the Chinese Buddhist wisdom. So Shifu when his this talk about his him adapting to the current world and his learning path. So then the question is here is there's a few questions here. So if Chan Buddhism is based on Tathagatagarbha after, so from Shifu's perspective and a lot of contemporary study, there's some fallacy or some issue. So after, say, like after individual is enlightened, is there still a Buddha nature in there behind it? Is that still something that exists? So and actually this such view often goes astray from, it's almost like kind of like a god, a theistic belief. It kind of, why is there such question that arises? This is something that I brought up, and I so when I was listening to Shifu's talk, then I asked this question, and so if there is such kind of fallacy that exists, then for example, Venerable Ying Shun is against the Tathagata school, and because there is a certain kind of fallacy that can come with it, because during the late Ming and early Qing dynasty, because it is very prosperous, and so there are a lot of a fallacy that developed during that time. So there's already that kind of false concept happening during that time. So so then a lot of the masters back then promote Buddha name recitation instead. So we'll say Shifu, so perhaps we should stop talking about Tathagata Garbha and just teach Buddha name recitation. So then Shifu said that these fallacy and misunderstanding is just a misunderstanding where we falsely think that there is a theistic existence behind the Tathagata Garbha, but the real Buddha nature is empty in nature. So so this this scholar Du Zhenming, he was he was a he was a vice president of the Dharma Drum Institute in Dharma Drum. So he studied Shifu's Tathagata Garba's thoughts, and so the Tathagata Garba's uh, Tathagata Garba's research. He said that the Tathagata Garba research is more difficult than the Madhyamaka and or the consciousness only. So Madhyamaka or the middle view is relatively simple. The consciousness only school is kind of more complex because it's very granular. It's a lot of detail. So Tathagata Garba, why is that the most difficult? It's because you have to go from the perspective of or dependent origination, and also from the prajna. It has the core of Madhyamaka, and it doesn't go against it. But at the same time, it also has to have the kind of expedient means of the consciousness only school. So in fact, consciousness only has said, is often say that the eighth consciousness. So it was said that the consciousness only school had developed up to the ninth consciousness. So but then they later decided, let's just like stop at eight. But in the eight but in the Tathagata Garba theory, it talks about the ethereal and also the consciousness only thought. So this is just a very basic introduction. We'll talk about more later. But there's another question. So if the Tathagata Garbha has an issue, so then we don't necessarily have to just do Buddha name recitation. We could just do Chan school. So this is so some might ask, and then so Chan school does Chan school marginalize Pure Land? Uh, so from Shifu's, when he was studying abroad in Japan, he realized that in late Ming and early Qing dynasty, these Chan masters, all of them do Buddha name recitation. Most of them do that. Only a few masters in the Linji sect don't do that. Most people do, and from they in fact they included the Buddha name recitation into the Chan methods and practices. So, for example, we also do that now in Taiwan. In April, in the lunar April, for our where the Chinese holiday for the ancestor, we we hosted a Maitreya Buddha name recitation retreat, 7 day. And so we also do a 7 day Buddha name recitation retreat. So when you say normal retreat is slightly different than the Buddha name recitation retreat. So the Buddha name recitation retreat is you have to make a vow to be reborn in the Western Pure Land. So for Chan retreats, we don't talk about that because we're not talking about that. That's your own choice. So during a normal Chan retreat, it's more about the Chan methods and less about being reborn into the Western Pure Land. So if you want to connect that to the sudden awakening methods, then we'll do Huatou methods. Then that is kind of advanced Huatou practice. So this is in Dharma Drum doesn't necessarily that does not marginalize Pure Land. In fact, Pure Land's it further explains or furthers the Pure Land school. And in fact, at Pure Land, there are different degrees as well, different levels. And so Shifu talks about the four Pure Lands, the four kinds. So in fact, these four kinds of Pure Land are are also is also not just presented by Shifu. The Tiantai school, they also presented these four, presented four Pure Land. But in today's time, if it's kind of difficult to talk about the Tiantai's Pure Land. So if, it's easier for us to understand Shifu's Pure Land. So the first one is the Pure Land of the human world. The second is the Pure Land of the heavenly realm, and the third is the Pure Land of the Buddha, and then the fourth is the Pure Land within our own mind. These are the four Pure Lands. So the first kind, Pure Land on the human world, is our what we advocate for today. So this is actually coming from Master Taishu, the first presented by Master Taishu, and because he looked at, this was based on his own realization, and that he realized that the traditional Chinese Buddhism is too much focused on the life after death, and it doesn't care enough about the current world. So he wanted to redirect the Buddhism of the time to 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 benefit the society today. So that was first presented by Master Taishu. And so the Pure Land of the heavenly realm is about the Maitreya Buddha, and that is about is the Maitreya's garden, and so 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 Taishu, because Maitreya is the Buddha that will come in the future. So if they can become, and so then the last one is Pure Land of the Buddha, and is so it's either the Western Pure Land or the Eastern Buddha, and the last is the Pure Land within our mind, and this is mostly about the Chan school, and the Pure Land within our minds, the relationship between Pure Land of our mind and the Pure Land in the human world is Shifu's main discussion. So he wants to make these two Pure Lands to be something that we can use today. So this is Shifu's. It is a very important transformation, because oftentimes the chans 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 often focus on the development of the Pure Land within our mind, but then what about the world that is still needs to develop the Pure Land in the world? So going from Sufu talked about going from the core of the Chinese Buddhism to develop into something that can be easily implemented in practice. How can we practice in today's in the human realm? So because we are ordinary people, we have scattered mind, and we have how can we practice? And if we use the Chinese sudden and perfect perspective, sudden enlightenment and perfect realization and perspective, you have to know the the conviction, the single and present deluded thought is replete with the merit of all Buddha. um, and so normally our our delusion is delusion. What does it have to do with what does it have to do with the Buddha? So and after learning from the Buddha, following the Buddha's path for so many years, because he haven't gone anywhere, because Buddha Dharma is too hard, because we didn't that, and that why is that? It's because we didn't get to the core uh, of the sudden and perfect method.
So the devoted, deluded mind. So if we believe, it's even hard to have the belief, but now I have confidence. How do I practice from here? Uh, right? So it seems that I have to pretend that I have confidence. So how do I go from here? Shifu say there is approach. Shifu says that there's four approach. Um, so it's part of the spiritual environmentalism. So when you see the single present deluded thoughts, you have to face it, you have to accept it, you have to also observe your deluded mind. And then finally, you have to let it go. So this is a four ways to deal with your deluded mind. For us, it probably takes a long time for us to go through this. But if we want to use trend practice, we have to observe the deluded thought whenever we have it. Let me give you an example. For example, a lot of people, it, when they try to develop a romantic relationship, they broke up with their partner, they will develop this quote unquote emotional hurt. So how long would you heal from your emotional hurt? Well, so the hurt could last for a lifetime. A lot of people become monk because they fail in your real life. So it's not bad that you fail in life and then you become a monk. Well, it's not bad that you have this reason, but I'm saying that if the hurt is too much, it could last a lifetime. So how do we deal with this kind of hurt and wound? So you don't have to wait a lifetime. You just have to observe it. You have to accept it. You have to let it go. So you have to develop your kind root. You have to be able to address that with your wisdom. So when you begin to let it go, you probably will say, "Oh, I'm free. I'm so free. I don't have to be constrained by my prior history. It's gone. Your prior heart cannot, at least it's gone. I'm free now. And I don't have to worry about future." So in other words, if we are able to deal with our current deluded thoughts, you can begin to calm yourself down. You can begin to have a pure and clarity. And if we see this from the Buddha minds, the real and false are non-dual. So this non-duality, your deluded mind and your mind is the same mind, is the same heart. So when I say the Buddha mind is mind of all sensual beings, Buddha mind is selfless. Therefore, he can experience everybody's mind. Therefore, he is able to use wisdom to deal with those mind of sensual beings. So when Buddha tried to deliver all sensual beings, he says that there is no sensual beings outside of his mind. So the wisdom is used to deal with the, the sensual being in his own mind. And this is what Buddha has experienced. Because in Buddha's mind, there's no distinction or conflict between self and others. And he understands that all sensual being has a lot of vexations. So how does he help those sensual beings to deal with their deluded mind? And this is exactly the function of Buddha Dharma, to help the world. This is a function of the Buddha Dharma. But if we don't believe that yet, we should reciting Buddha name. And when we reciting Buddha mind, there are two type of things. This two different things was proposed in Ming Dynasty. So the Sixin means that if you continue to recite Buddha names, you probably can go to, and you know that your mind will be resonate with the Buddha mind. And then you know that as essential beings, you have the potential to be redeemed by Buddha. So if you died, you probably can go to the West Pure Land, and then you can continue to practice under the teaching of Buddha in the future. And after you are enlightened, you are liberated, you can come back to human world to help others. But when Chen Buddhism talking about real and force as no duality, this is principle single-mindedness. This is what we say. This is not. So you are reciting Buddha's name without a form, meaning that you are working on the pure land in your mind. So it's about your. So this is resonate of Huayan Sutra. And if you do that, it seems that with this moment, the 10 Dharma realm is accomplished. So from that point of view, the Pure Land on earth is also part of West Pure Land. So according to Amituo Jing, that you would like to reborn in the Western Pure Land when you died. So how far is Western Pure Land from our human Pure Land? How far is it? Remember when we're talking about our vow, if we recite Buddha names, it seems that in a second, we can go to the lotus pond of the Western Pure Land. In a second. So here is the human land. And where is the Western Pure Land? There. So in a second, we can get there. So it's in the same place. So human world Pure Land is not away from the West Pure Land. So time is about up, so I have to kind of I will continue to move on. Because of different teaching and practice, so these are our missions and our responsibilities. And the origins of DDMN is Master Dongzhu. Master Dongzhu told Shen Yan Shifu says, you have to come back to Taiwan. You have to come back. Master Dongzhu, his first temple, quote unquote, is not a monastery. It's a culture institute. When he doesn't even have a place to stay, he decided to begin to publish and he would like to promote what Master Tai Chi said, pure land in human world. So he published his Humanity magazine. He doesn't have money. He had no place to stay, but he decided to publish newsletters and Buddhism magazines. He decided to promote the Buddhism with the right view. Master Dongzhu has this Bodhisattva heart. So Master Shen Yun said that, well, after he finished his study in Japan, he felt that probably they don't need him in Taiwan. And then he decided to went to States, and he felt that people there has this, people in United States is more straightforward. They are simple, but they have potential to learn Buddhism. And they have good karma roots, so they can practice efficiently. But 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 for people who has the so Master Dongsu say, well, the Culture Institute needs you. You need to come back. So he wrote this on his will to ask Shifu to come back. And Shifu says that if he did not come back to take over the Culture Institute and the Nongchan monastery, he felt that he probably will be still a Chen masters in United States. He probably would not have found DDM, and then we don't have the monastery community. So this is really based upon the kindness and the Buddhi heart of Master Dongzhu. So because of his will, he come back to Taiwan. Sifu came back to Taiwan. So Sifu decided to found Changhua Institute of Buddhist Study to connect what he studies in Japan. After he founded that for 20, 30 years, and which has a great reputation, he decided to found DDM World Center for Buddhism Education. So our DDM center is it is a continuation of Zhonghua Institute of Buddhist Study on the top of mountain. And as a result of that, the Shifu established DDM World Center for Buddhist Education. So it's not a regular monastery. It's not a typical monastery. It's an education center. So Buddhist study seems to very far away. But if we don't have the Institute of Buddhist Study, we will not have DDM today. So actually, DDM is follow the footsteps of the Buddhist Study Institute. So it's take about 16 years to build DDM. Usually it take about 3-5 years to build a site. But Shifu says that generally, it probably takes 3 to 5 years to build a monastery. But if that's the case, it probably have influence about 30 to 50 years. But if you want to have an influence for over 100 years or even 1,000 years, it should take longer to build the site, because the karma of the essential beings and the will and the vows of the essential beings, it would take a long time to accomplish this site, the monastery site. So when Shifu vowed to build this DDM, he felt that the DDM in his mind is accomplished. It just wait for all essential beings. The DDM in the mind of all essential beings to be built. So he proposed the missionary, which is promote the human character and build the human pure land on earth. Because everybody's thoughts is still very traditional.
Because Shifu learned that the contemporary Buddhist methods, and also a lot of the newer scholastic methods. So he uses to promote the world education part. So, for example, the Dharma Drum Institute of Liberal Arts, Dharma Drum Sangha University, Shenyang Academy, and also the Dharma Drum Mountain Community University. So the community university, it's in the Gold Mountains, also in Nongchen Monastery. It's a community college. So, we call it community university. It's just a community college. It's to connect people who needed an education and let them introduce Buddhism to them, uh, and then they can come into the Dharma Drum education system, and through either the Shenyang Academy to know about Dharma Drum. If they want to go deeper into it, then you can go to the Dharma Drums Sangha University or the Dharma Drum Institute of Liberal Arts. But I recommend that everybody goes to the Dharma Drum Sangha University. Right now, the monk disciples are very few and far in between, and there people are getting older, and a lot of these senior monks are getting older. So if these monks are getting smaller and smaller, population getting smaller and smaller, then there will be less people to spread the Dharma. So I hope that everybody go deep into the Buddha Dharma and help spread the Buddha Dharma. And so the whole goal of the Dharma Drum institution is to promote. Yeah. So and if we're talking about the DDM World Center of Buddhist Education, then we accept diverse population, from the Theravada and Tibetan people, and also Westerners, and but at the same time is using principle in Chinese Buddhism to prepare students to become Buddhist leaders in the world. You know, when I think about this, just recently, 10 years ago, I had thought originally I was in the Sangha university, and no, I was in the being in the Sangha myself. I never been to college, and I thought to myself that 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 like my learning was not enough. So I felt I wanted to do more study. So I wanted to delve deeper into the studies. So I went and I applied for the graduate the graduate program, but because I didn't have a college degree, then what did they do? They used an equivalent degree for being under Shifu, and to attend it. But I didn't do so well, but I still graduated uh, in 2017. I graduated, and what did I study? It was what I shared with everybody last time. It was the Bodhisattva Precept. To study the vow, the original vow, and also the sequence and order of the precept. So I say that actually when I was young, I was not good at school, and in fact I had some mental disability, you may say, and so much so that I was had so a lot of difficulties in school. I couldn't learn all the content. So when I grew up, I was like, if I couldn't do anything. If I couldn't learn anything, but thankfully I was able to learn Buddhism. And so how can I And in order to learn Buddhism and understand Buddhism more, I went to study for more in graduate school. I hope that my presentation here makes sense today. This is important. The Dharma Drum Mountain mission of Dharma Drum Mountain is to promote the Chinese Chan Buddhism with spiritual environmental protection as the core value. It's not just to promote the Chan Buddhism, but and they were trying to purify the world through three folds of education. And so everybody here, have you heard if you have heard 4 times of my brainwashing, four lectures of my brainwashing, I hope that that if 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 I hope that you can make a vow and do and do what can you do? You should deliver yourself, and then you can help deliver others. I hope everybody can make a vow. And I'm saying this because Master Sheng Yan, uh, and when this is our kind of grand opening of the verse. So the purpose of opening this temple is not to develop this temple as a means and end, but the purpose is to for everybody to discover the treasures within our mind, um, to find wisdom and in our mind to help build the Pure Land on earth. And this mission, you pass it on to everybody. So lastly, here, uh, I very sincerely share Master Sheng Yan's his mission. If we all need to depend on Master Sheng Yan to do everything, then 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 he he wished that he says that those things that I can't finish in this lifetime, I will continue to promote them in the future immeasurable lifetimes. But he wished that everybody can contribute to with together with me. So for those things that I cannot accomplish myself, I would invite everybody to collaborate and push forward together. And so I hope that everybody to promote the mission of Dharma Drum, which is to uplift the character of humanity and also build a pure land on earth. So this is that concludes my talk today. So we'll open up for questions.
哇，真的是太棒了！
So thank you, Venerable. This is great. This is so wonderful.
对，
Um,
反正因为
so
时
the
间到了，
next
今天是最后一讲了，所以就
so Venerable is very
给大家提问。
there we have a 10 minutes for Q&A. So for please take the opportunity to ask a question. Like before, you can use the raise hand function in the in Zoom, or you can write your question in the chat.
有 Linda 菩萨，Michigan 来的 Linda 菩萨，可以跟我们分享你的
Lena,
问题。
please unmute yourself.
那个真的师傅法师真的讲得很好。
Venerable, your lectures are excellent. I learned so much. So I have one question. It's very simple. So you mentioned that Dharma Drum. I'm not sure if it's myself or it, I, does a Dharma Drum promotes the advocates for the 4 types of Pure Land, and or do they recognize the 4 Pure Lands? And because the heavenly Pure Land, what does that mean? Is that the Maitreya Western Pure Land, or is it like the Brahmana Pure Land? So I'm just trying to understand what the heavenly Pure. So people have different kind of karmic roots. So for Buddhism, provide these 4 types of Pure Land for people to work towards. And so for Dharma Drum is mostly the Chan school is focused on the Pure Land within the mind. and then but we also promote the uh, promoting the Pure Land on the human world, and to use the Chan practice to apply to our life, and the Chan Buddhism and the Dharma drum lineage to help to bring a new hopes to the world. So for people with different karmic roots, may go to different Pure Land, reborn with different Pure Land, and so the even though you can do that, but the your connection with the human realm will be reduced that way. So so it's said that when you go to do you want to go to Pure Land, you have to develop the three kinds of merit. But from a Chan school's perspective, when they realize into the self nature, intrinsic nature, that is a Pure Land, and so that's that they realize into the Pure Land in the moment, and so for Dharma drum. In from Buddhism's perspective, there is it does provide four types of Pure Land, but what we promote is the Pure Land in the human world. Okay, thank you. So next is Carrie Foo. Carrie Fu, please unmute yourself. Thank you, sister. Thank you, Venerable Guoxing. All your lectures are excellent. So I have actually three questions, if you don't mind. Just do one question at a time. So the first question, you explained the cause and effect and cause and condition. Could you explain that a little bit more? I didn't hear clearly. What is the difference between them and what are the similarities? So simply stated, the way of the cause and effect is normally what we most people can accept. Normally, what we talk about is the cause and effect of the three lives and three time. So because of our ignorance, can create karma that push us into our next life, and so. You continue to turn in the circle of samsara. So in this process, if we do not use Buddha Dharma's right view to look at this, then if we're in we're within this three six realms, if we're and then and actually this kind of cause and the way of the cause and effect is not exclusive to Buddhism. Before Buddhism came about, there's already this a theory of the samsara. So people, we have to think like if for example, when I was born in Taiwan, but why did I meet Master Sheng Yen? Then I believe because I've done good deeds in the past life, and that's what led me to meet Master Sheng Yen. If I didn't cultivate good merits, then I wouldn't meet Master Sheng Yen. But a lot of people, they might not be in Taiwan. For example, you guys are in United States or in other places. You can also you can learn the Buddhism from Master Cheng Yen. But on one hand, it's because Master Cheng Yen wanted to promote this to the world, but it's also because that we all have the good karmic roots, because in within the cause and effect, people who have good karmic roots, who have good karmics can connect to such Buddha Dharma. So the cause and the condition is about the 12 link chain of cause and condition. So it comes back down to ourself, where if we can let go of our grasping mind, then it won't cause you to continue to reborn because of your clinging and grasping. And so what we say is you have to go against the 12 link chain, and so then that frees you from the circle of samsara, and it is said to be a non-arising Buddhism, Buddha Dharma, and so this is what we call uh, um, uh, uh, dependent co-arising. And so the causes and condition can also be said as the dependent co-arising way of looking. So if you look at the middle way view, that there's 8 parts. So maybe if I have time and details, we can talk a little bit more about what's the relationship between the causes and condition and cause and effect. But what we see in the world is cause and effect, but in its core, it is about causes and conditions. So that's a basic description. So Carrie, if do you want, would you like to ask your second question, since there no one has asked?
Please ask the second question. I thought, okay. And then so one of you ask one question. Thank you. I saw that you are observing emptiness. In our study group, 法师, we are reading this Lineage Tanxin books, and we talk about the true mind and deluded mind. But you're talking about there's no dual. True mind is equal to the deluded mind. Can you elaborate on that? We talk about that for a long time in my study. Well, well, this is not my specialty. You should ask Venerable Guoxing. That's his specialty. You should ask him. My answer is this. One heart and 2 entries. This is from 大圣启示论 or and 真如论 and 流转门. So this is based upon Saragama Sutra. So there is a flowing branch. And essential being as such, because now we are manifested as a function as essential being. And this is one function of the Buddha's mind. But we have so many functions, but we only choose to grasp the function as essential beings. So I did not use the Buddha mind. I'm not happy. I dislike stuff. So this is the manifestation of Buddha minds. However, it's only manifested, it's in as essential beings. Therefore, I did not display the wisdom. From Sifu's point of view, Sifu used Tiantai and Huayan Sutra. Tiantai would talk about in the beginning, they're talking about the real and false coexist. But even we have deluded mind, we can still to continue to practice it. And then their purpose is try to improve their deluded mind. And they started to be developed based upon the deluded mind. But Huayan to give you big pictures. But as, again, essential being, we choose to only see things as essential beings. So as long as we are able to use the Buddha mind, we can remove our vexations. So I'm not saying that even if my viewpoint is valid, all of you are wrong. It seems that only I can develop, I can improve, and you can't. So we have to always go back to the roots of all essential beings. if we are able to use methods of wisdom, we have to use that, but we cannot criticize other and saying other people are wrong. And only myself is valid. This is not a good things to say or to do. So Buddha Dharma is great, but it seems that we don't know how to use it. We always complain and criticize other. This is not good. So just to be briefly, well, thank you, Venerable. And so last question for Sister Liu Yan. I'm sorry, this is last opportunity. I have it's not a huge question. I just want to show my gratitude to Venerable Guoxing. This is very beneficial to me. This is very complete. I would like to compliment Fa's research direction, particularly is related to Bodhisattva's precept. This is something I'm interested. I hope that I will able to listen to Fa more about this part, the Bodhisattva precept. Well, at least I'm not exposed to this topic before, and I'm really interested in this, particularly because of different school of thoughts. They did not talk about Bodhisattva path. And some of the school did not even talk about Bodhisattva path. I felt that the origins of Bodhisattva path is something I'm interested. Thank you. Well, in September, I also would talk about. So there is a platform. Hopefully, there's an online platform called DDM lecture. I hope you can listen to this. I'm going to share my research on Bodhisattva Precept. I am benefit by Venerable Lingyuan. In 2007, I vowed to publish the complete collection of work by Master Lingyuan. And finally, this year, it's all published. The entire collection of works by Master Lingyuan. I compile, edit them, and I also study it when I was at graduate school. I realized that Master Lingyuan resonate with the Bodhisattva Precept by Sifu. So everybody think about precept because the Bodhi heart has a lot to do with the Chen heart, and Master Lingyuan talk about that for a lot. It also talk about in Huayan Sutra. When you had a Bodhi heart, you can turn that into perfection realization. If you have a Bodhi heart, if resonate with the Buddhi heart, it's very hard to achieve. But Mahayani Buddhism Chinese Buddhism keep talking about this, saying that we have to have I hope I will be able to share with you Bodhisattva Precept and Bodhi Mind. I hope I will be able to share this with all of you in September. Thank you. Thank you, Venerable. So in September, don't forget, let's get on to the lectures, DDM lecture to listen to Fa's talk. So let's conclude our talk today. So let's do the transfer of merits first. So join palm. transfer merit. I vow to dispel the three hindrances and all afflictions. I vow to attain wisdom and true understanding. I vow to eradicate each and every hindrance caused by offenses and always walk the Bodhisattva path in life after life. Amitofo.
感恩国兴法师的捧讲。接下来呢，
Thank you,
给
Fa
咱
Shi.
们一点点的时间，
So
让我
we'd
们
like
知
to
道
take a
上
few
一次
minutes and
是谁分
invite
享的。
our the director
长兴
of
法师
DDM
来跟大
in
家
San
分享。
Francisco. So we would like to ask Changxing Fa Shi to encourage us. Good evening, everybody. It seems that I feel like an old man as the leader. So because you are in old Gold Gate, we call ourselves Golden Mountain. The old Golden Mountain is called by the outsider. Want to thank Venerable Guoxing's fantastic lineage. And I also want to thank our translators for their efforts. I think they have done a good job. This PowerPoint, I think Fasu can keep this Chinese, the bilingual PowerPoint. Want to talk about Venerable's talk. You provided detailed explanation and guidance for those of us. So you talk about the first talk. You talk about how Shifu developed his Chen praxis. You also talk about Bodhisattva Precept. You talk about how Dharma drum lineage of Chen Buddhism. How does that differ from traditional Chen? And as it returned to the traditional original Buddhism in India. And then you place equal emphasis on precept, meditation, and wisdom. So and you also have a good recommendation of those books on meditation. This really allow us to not only to talk the talk, but also walk the walk. Thank you for your introduction of these books. And finally, it's unfortunate it's very short. We got to see the development of Chinese Chen Buddhism, and we see how Shifu developed DDM Chen Buddhism. So from Indian Chen to Chinese Chen, and then to DDM lineage. So we can see how the Buddhist nature has been changed and has to relate to Buddha's original intention and supreme mind of cause and condition described by Sukyamani Buddha. So the four talks are quite short, but the contents are really definitely worthy of your attention and review. You probably can see that multiple times at Facebook. So if you're interested in learning the trend strategy, and if you like to learn trends approach systematically, this is a great introduction course for you. This is also a caring guidance. It seems to intended to deliver novice learners to the gate of Chen. I'm very grateful to Venerable Guoxing for his efforts. In the beginning of his slides, and talking about Sifu's life of transformation, how he exercised Buddhism. And this is exactly what I know about Venerable Guoxing as well. Thank you. Hopefully in the near future, we can also invite you to come here to either teach courses or teach us lead trend practice in the near future. I would like to also thank Changxing Fa Shi. He was one of the important higher administrator in the Sangha University. He has done a good job. By listening to my talk, he can integrate all those concepts together. So so I felt that so if people are devoted to your learning, you probably can learn very well the Chen and the Bodhidharma. So I want to thank 法师 give me the opportunity to be here to talk to you
阿弥
all.
陀佛，讲的
阿弥陀佛. Thank you and thank both venerables.
说到，希望有一天有机会，我们也可以邀请到法师
Hopefully, in the future, we can invite 法师 to come here to teach us.
说这个只是
I'm here. I'm here already.
跟您做小餐啊，这就是您的正业啊。
I would like to learn with you, do interview in the Chen practice. This is your specialty. Let's do the ethic. Please join palm.
问讯，
Vow to the Buddha.
向法鼓山创办人圣严师父一问
Vow
讯，
to Master Shen Yan, the founder of DDM.
礼谢法师一问讯。
Vow to venerables. Thank you, 阿弥陀佛.
好，中华禅法
Great.
宗今天这个课程呢，到这里圆满
So that's concluded all series of talk.
这4次的讲座里啊，真的是每一场都是笑容满面，
Fa Si has all smile when he talked to us.
欢喜跟
And the words he talked most during his talk is joy and happiness.
到法师的开示，
It's very joyful that we are able to learn from Fa Si, and it's very. I am very happy that we have known Sifu and Fa Si. I hope those people like me who haven't obtained Bodhisattva precepts can vow to accept Bodhisattva precept. Just like what Shifu can say, if we done that, we will be happy every day. And I would wish everybody safe and well. If you could, please turn on your video. We can say thank you and bid farewell to venerables and everybody. Thank you.
感恩法师，感恩法师，感恩法师，
感恩法师，阿弥陀佛。
阿弥陀佛。
法师，感恩。